I'm so happy that we talk about this um, bad moment in society, actually. And I share the concerns. And what I feel in the panel as well is like we're really yearning for like a solution to like what is the one thing that we can do um, with all the trouble that we see. And the way that I try to solve it for myself and in the work that I do, it's actually what Sonia also said. It's in the end, it's the people that make the decisions that set the tone for that human part of society. And when we look at leadership, I think one of the biggest challenges leaders have is to be themselves with all the fears and all the vulnerability and all the strength at the same time. And it's been a journey for me too, as a leader, as a trainer for leaders, as an entrepreneur. How do I put all these big issues into what am I going to do today to make the difference? And for me, that has been the key and the goal in my life, to bring more compassion, because we already said that the system is really focused on results, on getting more and more economic results. And we see since 2016 that welfare and well-being, they used to go like parallel, but since 2016, well-being is going like that and welfare is going there, and then the planet is probably going here. What is it that I can influence? That is my mindset and my behavior, because that is, for me, one of the leading phrases that I work with now with the leaders. Because I think leaders need to delegate, because we can't do it all themselves, ourselves, and we need to bring people together. But there's one thing that you cannot delegate as a leader. One thing, and that is your own behavior. So if we talk about role models, and if we talk about making a change, I think it always starts step by step. And one of my tools that I have in me is that I learned to show up, even if I find it very difficult, to be open and vulnerable, and to navigate through the difficulties by embracing the conflict. And that's why I'm so happy that I'm here with Nate, because that is not easy, but so necessary to help leaders, not only because we know it's difficult, but how are we going to make a first move in making it a clearer path, or feeling that we can influence it for the better. So Nate, I'm happy that you're here with me, with us. Will you share your vision
Sure.
on this? Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Edith. And it is a joy. It's a joy to know you. It's a joy to and hope to see all of the positive energy in Europe and beyond. This is a picture from a couple years ago in Amsterdam, near Amsterdam, with
And
our some
yeah,
of our global network of trainers. Our mission is to bring more compassionate accountability to every workplace in the world as a way of transformation. And your question was so good, Andrea. What are we solving the right problems? And I want to share with you a conversation that I have with leaders every day. And this is a paraphrase of a conversation that happens over and over and over. They come to us and they say, we have trust problems and we need help. And so I ask them, how do you know this? That's a good sales question, right? How do you know this? And they say, well, because we avoid conflict. Nobody wants to have the hard conversations. But I'm not satisfied with that answer. So I asked them, how is this a trust problem? And this is where they reveal their mindset. They say, well, we learned that trust comes before conflict. And you have to build a foundation of trust in order to have healthy conflict. So logically, it makes sense. We don't have enough trust yet. Here is the mindset. The mindset is that conflict is a withdrawal from the trust bank account. That in order to have conflict, we must first have so much trust because conflict is the enemy. It is the withdrawal from the bank account. And so we set out to try to understand how prevalent is this mindset. And so we did some research. We just finished a study of 400 leaders across the world, all levels within all size organizations. And one of the questions we asked them is this very question, is which comes first? Does trust come first to have healthy conflict, or can conflict be a catalyst for building trust? Anybody want to guess how many people picked each one? Well, here's the data. 85% of leaders believe that you have to have trust first before you can do conflict. Only 15% of leaders believe that conflict could be a trust building activity. So where did we learn this? Where do we learn to think of conflict this way? Well, I tell you where I learned it. I learned it from Lencioni in the 5 dysfunctions of a team. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this model, but it's pretty popular. Absence of trust comes first, and that leads to fear of conflict. So this is where we've learned it. Until we have enough trust, we can't do conflict, but we can't do conflict until we have enough trust. It's a vicious cycle. Now, Society for Human Resource Professionals, SHRM, is starting a big civility movement. Great intentions. And I got this email the other day from SHRM, and they said, you can do an assessment and meet with one of our advisors, and you will learn how to stop conflict before it spreads. Right there, the implication is conflict is the enemy. And then we can rebuild trust, and then we can hold leaders accountable. How? How can this possibly work if we see conflict as the enemy? So here's the consequences we're experiencing. In our study, leaders say they spend over 30% of their day dealing with conflict now. However, only 50% deal with it if they have to, but they don't like it and they avoid it if possible. And 72% will compromise in order to avoid the conflict. So our relationship with conflict is fraught, it's unhealthy, it's dysfunctional. Global leadership forecast from DDI, another amazing study, showed that for the first time in the history of this study, trust in immediate managers has fallen below trust in senior leaders. It's easy to not trust leadership. Nobody trusts leadership, but we tend to trust our immediate managers because we see them, we work with them every day. We believe mostly they have our best intentions in mind. Further on in that study, they deciphered that this trust rests heavily on the conflict skills of the leader, but less than 50% of employees trust their supervisor's ability to lead through conflict, to navigate conflict without negative consequences. So here's the bright side. There is a silver lining, is that 91% of these leaders believe that conflict is somewhere part of the equation. Somewhere it fits in, but only 50% are confident in their own ability to embrace it as a positive catalyst. So that leads to the essential dilemma. This is what I believe is the core problem that we are not getting right. This is the number one conflict that every leader faces every single day. They can never get away from it. We can never escape it, and it only is amplified under pressure. So, John, your question, do we have time? Because the pressure is on and time is running out. So what is this essential dilemma? It's epitomized by these statements that we hear every day. I'm not sure if you hear this. You can't be someone's boss and friend at the same time. If you show vulnerability, people will take advantage of you. That's the prevailing mindset right now. Oh, I don't want to be a jerk, but we need to get stuff done, which is basically saying I'm going to be a jerk and it's justifiable because we have to get stuff done. And it goes on and on. As a parent, I told my children, I'm just practicing tough love. And that was after I did something I was not proud of. So here's the essential dilemma. The number one conflict is relationships versus results. Sonia, you said it. We have to put people first. And so we're torn every single day between compassion and accountability. That's a number one conflict. And it's not that this is a problem, it's how we approach it. And I think the biggest barrier to flourishing is the false belief that compassion and accountability are opposites, that they're in tension, that you can't have both. And here's what happens when we choose. When we choose accountability without compassion, we get things done, but we create negative cultures that can't keep people. When we choose compassion over accountability, we create avoidant cultures that can't perform because we don't have the hard conversations. We don't talk about the real difficult issues, and we don't come together with vulnerability like Edith mentioned. So here's the big idea where I think we need to be focusing is conflict is not the problem. Conflict actually might be the solution. It could be a catalyst for greater trust. So how? And that's where I want to share with you. My belief is that our solution is to reframe our view of conflict and learn new skills for using conflict as a trust building catalyst instead of to destroy our world. So I want to share with you very quickly a few kind of principles of this conflict paradigm that we've developed. First of all, conflict is natural, it's inevitable, and it's an abundant source of energy. It exists because of differences. If there wasn't for diversity in the world, we would have no conflict. So the purpose of conflict is to create. I firmly believe that the purpose of conflict is to create, not to destroy. And it represents such an incredible opportunity for us to build or break trust and to make transformative changes or to destroy ourselves. But the primary conflict anyone deals with is the tension between preserving relationships and driving for results. And if we choose one or the other, we break trust. And so compassionate accountability is the belief that the two can come together and must coexist. And so it requires new skills for leaders. And our framework in order to do this is we have to have very clear terms. What do we mean by conflict? What do we mean by compassion? What are the observable behaviors that tell us that we're moving in the right direction or moving away? We have to have a good assessment that can show us the prevalence and the frequency of these behaviors. We have to have a great template to do conflict that generates. We have to have accountability rubrics so that we can know if we're doing it, help each other out, hold each other accountable, and support each other. And we have to link it to things that matter, the KPIs, the long-term goals. I love what you said. I think, Marina, are we designing for the next quarter or the next generation? I just want to end by sharing with you an assessment we've been working on that we're using to try to get a sense of this for the world. We created a validated assessment that measures 27 items that contribute or detract from generative conflict. It generates 14 indices and a complete map for how a person or a group or an entire system negotiates that tension. And there's one number that shows the health of the culture. It's called the Drama Resilience Index. And it's the ratio between compassion and drama. In other words, are we using conflict as a creative force or a destructive force? And we map it on the continuum of flourishing, where this is based on 17,000 data points globally. These are the numbers that indicate where we stand. And so basically, in our view, we have one choice every day, but there's two trajectories depending on the choice we make. We can choose to see relationships and results as opposites. Compassion and accountability is opposites. And if we buy into that myth and we choose one over the other, we start to engage in conflict that destroys. That's drama. And we see where that ends. Or we can use conflict as a generative force with compassionate accountability. And with one number, we can see where we are, have insight, and have a path forward to track the impact of our changes at an individual level, at a systemic level, at a global level. And so right now, we've collected 16,000 assessments, and the global drama resilience index right now is 1.46. This is in the danger zone. So you're probably not surprised. This is what we've been talking about here today, is that we are not solving the right problems. And the biggest illusion is that we see compassion and accountability as opposites, and we see conflict as the enemy. And so our assessment, actually, I want to share it with you all today, and you can share it. It's free. And it generates, anyone can go find out their drama resilience index and 3 core compassion skills for being able to walk into that space and completely transform how we see conflict and how we see the tension between relationships and results. And I'll put that in the chat here in a little bit, and you can share it afterwards. So thank you very much, Edith. Anything you want to say just to wrap that up?
No, thank you for being so elaborate on what it means to make a choice as a leader. And I think that is what I learned and what I see in my leaders as well, if you embrace conflict as a positive element, and rather than fueling the opposite, say, okay, I stand here in my truth. That requires vulnerability and self-management. And that is one of the skills I think leaders, any leaders, not it's also personal leaders, group leadership, need to move forward in this quite chaotic status where we are as a society. So thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Nathan and Edith. And I must say, I think that I done this assessment correct, Edith?
You did, yeah.
I was very happy with my results. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
it's and what I think one thing I would like to add, because we feel often that we don't have a choice due to pressure, and the choice that the limitation in choice we feel has to do with the skills that we have, with the mindset that we have on the situation, any situation. It can be my dog falling in the canal yesterday and I thought, whoa, and I can freak out, or I can think, okay, I'm happy that somebody pulled her out. It can be like a huge sustainability project that I have to face. And I'm like, oh, we're never going to solve this, or we need to do it now. And I increase the pressure. But one of the biggest chefs in the Netherlands said, nobody ever went and became a better cook by yelling at them. So by polarizing, no, the choice is, am I choosing people and results together from an open mind and vulnerability? And that's the choice.
Thank you.
So
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
I might just add really quick that it's so easy to get discouraged about how big the problem is, and that we can't change everyone, and how much time do we have. But it always starts here. And I believe that the energy that we put out into the world has huge ramifications. And every interaction is an opportunity, even with ourselves inside, is an opportunity to change the flow of energy in the world. And so when we can take that conflict, maybe like martial arts, and use that energy to build and build and build, the ripple effects go out long distances. And I think it makes a bigger difference in the world than we can even imagine. And we don't have to lose hope.
Thank you, Nate. Let's now switch to Marina. I think that the topic we are really waiting with some expectation for the alignment. The question is, what does it mean for a leader personally to take responsibility at the intersection of human, natural, and technological elements? And before you will get your few minutes, just I would like to share what happened to me this week. One of our clients, which has also the office in Slovenia, call us because Quintaum is doing this very holistic diagnostics. And they said, if we can come to help them because they have very strange situation with the performance assessment and the performance interviews. And I asked what happened, and they said this is a very sophisticated Swiss UK IT company, and they have very sophisticated AI that is tracking everything what their employees are doing. So basically the HR manager who sits in Vienna called here the office in Ljubljana and said, look, you must do with one of your colleagues something, because the AI indicated that he's fully unmotivated and that he's fully unengaged, and the forecast is he's not a very good team member. And then the Slovene manager said, yes, but this person has 3 months ago the car accident and he is in hospital and he is working from the hospital on those tiny bites of the time that is available for him. So basically, he is very motivated and engaged, but he's not sitting in the office. So this is when the AI took the control of the overall communication and the management system within. So Marina, please, you have a few minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this idea and this introduction. And it's so important. Maybe it is not related to what I wanted to say, but just a couple of words to connect to your story. I think that it's really important for us to understand that AI cannot fully substitute the person, because it can't see and can't, first of all, it can't feel, and it can't understand what is really going on. And in this case, it's really great that we have now these AI technologies to delegate some simple tasks and to have the AI as an assistant, maybe as an intern to which you are delegating some simple tasks, but it's definitely not the sort of person who would do the job for you, or do the assessment for you, or make the vital decisions for you, because otherwise we can see how it works in practice. So yes, it can help. And you know, I read a book about using the AI for children and adolescents in education, and I liked this idea that AI is an exoskeleton for our cognitive skills. So it's not the substitution of our mind. It's not the substitution of our cognitive capacities. It's mostly the enhancer. It can help us do something quicker. It helps us maybe to formulate proper questions in order to find proper answers. But it definitely is not a substitution for our capacity to think, to feel, and to live ultimately. So yes, that's really important. And again, speaking about the conflict, I wanted to connect to this idea that it's really important for us to understand the point of reference to the conflict, because what is important for the relationships between person to person might be not so significant for the relationships between, for example, organization and organization, or maybe in planetarian scale. Our problem, our conflict might be not so vital and so important. And if we can practice these different points, sort of looking through different lenses, from different points of view, it helps us feel differently towards different situations which are taking place. And in this case, I wanted to share to continue my idea on before starting solving something or doing something, we need to think and to work with our mindsets. And that's absolutely fantastic idea of working with our approaches to trust and conflict and many other dilemmas, both in the organizations and in the communities and between countries. We see it sort of every day. And at the same time, I understand that if we are working only with our rational perceptions, this might not work, because if you tell somebody, be a good leader, be compassionate, practice love. So if you can't feel it, if you can't experience it, if you don't have reference points, you will not be able to understand, and you will do it mechanically. And we see lots of leaders who are doing mechanically good things without feeling it. And in this case, I wanted to share our approach, which we use in Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem research work, in working with the local leaders and leaders of local communities. We invite people before looking for some answers. We invite them to be humble enough to listen and to ask right questions. And those questions might be asked not only through the lens of a person in some specific particular situation, but also through the lens of different layers or levels of probability, referring to our friend Alexander Laszlo, who is speaking about different layers or levels of syntony. So we can reconnect and to look through different lenses and to experience these different feelings and approaches to the situation through the lens of connecting to our inner self, to our virtues, to our best version of ourselves, as we can say. Then we can connect to the higher self, to our purpose, to our contribution to the world, through the lens of why I am living, not just why I am doing this or that today in the morning, but why I am living as a living being. Then to connection with others, to the ethics of the organization, to the ethics of the community where people live. So what would my organization say? What would my family feel like? What would my maybe local community how it would perceive this or that problem or this or that situation, then connecting to their non-human beings. And that's absolutely another perspective of understanding how would this forest feel? How would the place where I was born feel about what we are doing in this place? And what would the whole ecosystem look like if I'm making such or such decision? And what would planet say? And in this case, that's very interesting that I didn't know it. And some of our colleagues from New Zealand shared that they officially personalized the mountain and the river. So it is documentary, there is a document which personalized as a living being the mountain. And what would our mountain or our river say? And that's another perspective. And through this lens, we can not only imagine or sort of find some right decisions, but we can feel, we can experience through the lens of different people. And if we refer to the indigenous wisdom, for example, we know that there is a, maybe not decision-making, but coming to some conclusions through the lens of 7 generations. What would my ancestors say? What would my descendants, what would my grandchildren say about this situation? And again, through the lens of the spiritual connection and understanding this humility and connectedness to the cosmos, to the whole living beings. And yes, it's difficult, but through this practice, through this allowance ourselves to not just to be some person in some specific situation, but to expand our perceptions, to expand our understanding of reality. And again, speaking about this hierarchical nestedness of different wider systems to which we belong, this helps us to look differently at the place, at the urban planning, at the decision making, at some management solutions, at planetarian issues. And again, we can say that we have no time or we are afraid of some consequences. And I liked Sonia's idea of we should act with love, and love is timeless. So when we are speaking about connectedness to bigger systems, to our ancestors, to our children, to the whole planet, to the whole cosmos, there is no time at all, because we don't have it, but because we are timeless. So in this case, I think that this approach can help a lot in reframing, first of all, our lenses of perception of reality, and at the same time, refilling, reconnecting, relating, re-evaluating what is going on with us. And through this felt experience, you know, when you meditate, when you have some altered states of mind, you start look differently at your life. So in this case, you can just practice some reimagining yourself as a mountain, as a planet, as a whole organization, as a grass beneath your feet. And this can give a leader different perspective, very practical solutions through the different lenses of perception. So I think that this might be a good practice, and it worked great with our partners in different countries. And we are trying to collect stories about these different perceptions, different approaches, different practices, indigenous, traditional, how people, how our ancestors dealt with these problems. And yes, maybe the technological challenges are different in comparison to sort of all the times, but we are still humans. We are still with this, dealing with the same lifelong problems. So
beautifully, Marina, thank you. I found my business story inside when you explain all these perspectives, although we must be honest that there are not many, in particular in the business community, if and when you would share that you are trying to embed all these aspects into something what they are still in the tunnel, and to see very narrow part of the picture, but therefore it is also this fear from them when delight is coming on the overall picture, and they see the parts that they have never been faced in the past, and basically they don't know how to react and what to do. So thank you. Because I would stop here, and I'm sure that there are many questions, but we still have Sanchita. Sanchita, please, the time is yours on the question about what you already mentioned at the beginning, and this is this alignment within the long-term goals and the short-term value creation, or the short-term pressure. The short-termism is something that is on the table in the leadership for the past 2 decades. And again, it is not really that we would be able to say that a lot of things change, and this is quite the outdated model of the success, yet it is still very much embedded to the leadership. So what is your perspective on this?
First of all, Andrea, I already feel so enriched, so much wisdom has already flown. And coming at this juncture, it's like you have listened so much, you're already brimming with ideas and creativities. And, when I talk, I always put myself in those shoes. And it's already an everyday juggle where you want to be a good leader, believe in that long-term value creation. And then at the end of the day, you are a human. So you falter, you come back that you planned for something, and then you actually behaved like nothing. You didn't do anything, and you were just stuck in the everyday rut. But coming back to your question to me, aligning leadership with long-term value creation requires nothing less than a recalibration of the compass by which organizations navigate. So too often, value is collapsed into the narrow arithmetic of quarterly earnings or market capitalization. And believe me, I'm talking from my own, as I said, everyday juggle, because this is what we do for us and for our clients. Yet, if we pause and observe history, we see that empires, companies, even civilizations have not collapsed because they failed to maximize profit margins. They collapsed because they failed to preserve trust, ignored ecological boundaries, and eroded the dignity of their people. So what does long-term value truly looks like to me? It's measured in the resilience of our ecosystems, the continuity of cultural and social capital, and the strength of that trust that organizations hold with the societies around them. And it is about designing governance systems that reward stewardship over opportunism, where patient capital, ethical trade-offs, and transparency are not afterthoughts, but built into the DNA of decision-making. So in practice, this means embedding intergenerational thinking at the very center of leadership. Imagine if every boardroom decision ended with one simple question: if my grandchildren were stakeholders at this table, would they thank me for this choice? Or would they inherit the costs of my short-termism? So that single lens could transform how we think about resource use, labor practices, innovation pipelines, and even financial reporting. Long-term value also requires rejecting the false binary that people, purpose, and profit must compete with one another. So the truth at the end of the day is that the most resilient organizations are those that design these dimensions as part of one architecture, where financial growth is not pursued at the expense of human or planetary well-being, but alongside them. And this is where modern leadership must evolve. We must evolve from being guardians of balance sheets to being custodians of futures. It's a shift from leading for returns to leading for relevance, if I may say so, from legacy defined by accumulation to legacy defined by what is safeguarded. So this is from my side, Andrea, and over to you.
Thank you, Sanchita. So would you say that somehow we all that are more focusing on either on the sustainability, on the system thinking, the eco-civilization approach, are building some kind of the bridges because the leadership today do not understand um, what we try to say and what we have envisioned for the future. I'm now referring to the case that what we discussed, I think, in June, July, that in India, that you get the attention of the management on the particular topic. If they are not asked by the law, by some directive about the reporting, it is very difficult. So they are complying to the demands on the side of the sustainability reporting, climate change reporting, but the real change that usually starts with yourself and with your people. This is still what you're not getting the attention.
Absolutely bang on. Whatever you said, Andre, is absolutely bang on, because this is what we discussed, as you said rightly. And you remember, this is exactly how it is happening. Can't comment on the rest of the world. But yes, India being one of the largest markets and home to the highest number of people on this planet. This is how the mindset is, and that needs a systemic shift. I am pretty sure that it's going to take a lot of time, but what we need right now is that consistent approach.
The sub question to that one, because from my European Western perspective, India is one of the most spiritual places on the earth. but still yet the situation is almost the same. How would you comment that?
Yes, but that is historically. So what is happening is, at that time, you're talking about spirituality wise. Yes, we are spiritual. But as you also know, when you talk about conflicts and polarization, and everybody is seeing that across the globe, when we are becoming like one global village, there are so many conflicts going on, people siding ways. And, in this era where actually my dad says that whatever you need, whatever you read is actually not the pure information, it's the opinion. So what we do is we just read those few lines in the newspaper or, the news portals, and we form an opinion. And then we go by it. So coming back to spirituality, that is there. That's the backbone of our system, of our country, which, it's also fast eroding. And when I talk about these things, I always also say that these are the things that need to be preserved. Spirituality needs to be preserved, not the religion per se. What happens is when you start talking about the religion and, there is, this intersection that is created. And what is happening these days is people are getting mistaken by talking about religion, and then they say they are spiritual. So it's not spirituality. It comes from within. If I talk about my spiritual thing, probably we all here in the panel would be the same on that, because it emanates from soul. Religion may be different, but soul-wise, we are connected. So when we talk about meditation, I think when I talk about that, I relate that to things that are related to soul, maybe meditation or even yoga, that connects you mentally. So that value system is actually very fast eroding in this part of the world as well. And that is also one worry. But then we do not have any absolute control on that. The only person we have control on is us. So, yeah.
Dear Suchita, by all means, India becoming such a powerful, not only economical, also political force. I hope that many leaders we will see in the same consciousness and spiritual alignment as you are. So thank you for your contribution. I see that Sonia has a question, but at the end, I would also like to ask Alexander maybe for his reflection on the today talks. And if anybody else has any question, any comment, please come and ask. Yes, Sonia.
I just wanted to add something to very practical advices of Sanchita, that we also need to change the language that we use in leadership, also the titles. If I ask you how attractive the title Chief Executive Officer sounds to you, is this title inviting people to collaborate, to co-create, or is this title building walls? So that's why I suggest that we replace chief with custodian, as Sanchita also mentioned, and that we use other parts of titles that convey the inspiration, energy, enthusiasm, invitation. So this is my practical add-on.
Thank you. Very good point. Thank you, Sonia. Alexander, it would be our pleasure to hear your reflection of today's discussion. Violeta, can Alexander talk? Is he added?
Okay, sorry. Give me a second.
In this time, maybe may I do one reflection on, as we were talking about that so many organizations are also focused on results. So talking the language of, if we want everybody to change, then it's also important to talk the language of profit and people and purpose. And the other day I heard Paul Polman speak. I probably know him from Unilever, the custodian executive officer used to be of Unilever. And research shows that it's a 20% higher turnover and profits. I looked at the notes when I heard him talk. So, and I think if we only say, hey, we need to talk from love, we will not have all the ears. But if we can show, if you make this change, then it will serve both purpose, both people, and the profit. So
Thank
I
you.
think there's a lot of
Alexander, hello.
Hi, thank you so much. I'll be brief, but I wanted just to say, brilliant. This is so needed. Thank you, Violetta, for putting all of this on and bringing all of this together. That's, I mean, you're showing the kind of leadership which we're all talking about here. And Andrea, thank you so much for coordinating all the wonderful conversation here. And each of you, this is what gives me hope. This, because we are embodying and being the leaders that I think are what we need in the world today. So thank you for being and for engaging and for the words you shared. There's I mentioned just a couple of things. That my daughter, who is now in her mid-20s, she uses this expression which is quite common, I think, in her generation. She said, touch grass. And touch grass is a way of saying get real. But I like the way it's expressed because it means touch. I mean, if you think about it literally, it means, yeah, and connect with the earth, connect with the what is alive, what is vital. Stop being in your head. Stop thinking all these thoughts. Touch grass. So it's a lovely reminder. I also, just picking up on the way Sonia began the whole business with this, for me, it's not about the problems. You know, if we look for problems, we'll find them. And when we problematize a life, that's a problem, sorry to say. But it's not about problematizing everything. And that's a real activity in business these days. We have to problematize the situation, and then we can find the solution. But life is not a problem to be solved. And people are not problems to be fixed. So then we come into the relational intelligence and all that you have been talking about today so brilliantly. So I think coming away from this problematizing is very important. And the last thing I'll say, just to add to this, is my friend Lawrence Bloom would say that the really good leader is the one who will ask in every decision point, what would love do? That's simple. What would love do? And then listen for the heart's response, not for the head trying to figure it out, but just for that tropism, that leaning towards, I think it's in this direction. And then follow with the head. But it's heart speaking and then brainstorming. So thank you so much again for this wonderful session.
Thank you, Alexander, for these great words and reminding us on touching the grass that basically we cannot avoid, if you in any circumstances, if we try to come to the real and authentic solutions. Is anybody else? Because I see somebody would like to raise something. There is Violeta, please.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you to all of you. And this was so exciting. I've been trying to catch up with you, but there were so many good ideas that I haven't got all of them, of course. But I got also intrigued right at the beginning when Alexander wrote this note, or actually comment. I'm particularly interested in the coevolution of human, artificial, and nature-based intelligence as a virtuous cycle, and the leadership needed to foster it. And I would raise a question. What do you feel after all these discussions that the turning points are beyond love frequency, which we all already agree, to bring these three natures or three intelligence closer? As a summary or as a future question to be addressed in future discussions? And of course, Alexander, you're welcome to respond as well.
Can I respond as well also here? Because
I ask all of you because this, I thought, brought together everything we talked about today.
At the experiment of systemic constellation of intelligences, we received the message that the intelligence of nature is included everywhere and is asking us not to complicate things, to simplify it.
Anybody else? Nate? Marina?
No, just wonderful. Wonderful hearing everyone. I must apologize. I do have an appointment in a little bit that I need to go for. So if I disappear, that's why. I just want to share my gratitude and appreciation for being part of this and getting to know each of you and your brilliant ideas better.
Thank you very much, Nate. Anybody else would like to comment on this? Also from the participants, everybody is welcome. So if not, Violeta, then this is food for thought. Also for the contribution to the books, which Marina, I think that you're expecting from all of us until when? Can you just share what is the deadline?
Well, usually we ask to contribute in a couple of weeks after the session. So if it is possible, please send us your writings. It will be highly appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Thank
I will ask Marina just to send to all participants in this panel also the instructions, maybe. So you will receive that. And if anybody wants chat notes, I can share that too. And of course, the video itself will be published. Thank you.
That would be very good. I would be interested to get the video because there are a lot of who are watching after that. And from my side, really thank you to all for also during the preparation phase. And thanks, Violeta, for providing and holding the space for this kind of the discussions. And maybe just on your side, the last words before we say goodbye.
Let's just keep out raising questions, listen each other, hold space for each other to evolve the thoughts that come and feelings that come. I think it's coming really the era of listening and deep compassionate understanding of what is going on. And I had a sense that the new era of leadership will emerge out of this space that we are holding. So I feel great today. Thanks for all the comments. Especially, I'd like to especially thank also to all the participants, Alexander and John and Keith and all these that really made the discussion even more lively in the comments. So I hope that this is just the beginning of our continuous and Chris continuous discussion. And I see you at the next session, or I'll see you at the summit in January when Ecocivilisation Summit will also set the stage for the year 2026. And I'm sure it's going to be lots of exciting events coming based on collaboration with you as well. So thank you very much.